Greetings, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland. Here I am going to tell you about Oxford English. So what is Oxford English? Well, this expression is often used interchangeably with received pronunciation, Southern British English and so forth. I recall once when I was in Pakistan, somebody asked me, is there a special kind of English spoken in Oxford? At that point that chap had no idea I was an Oxonian. And I said, well, no, not really, but I knew what he was talking about. So I thought in this video I'd really focus on English as spoken in the University of Oxford, because the university is more famous than the city from which the university draws its name. Oxford English, I suppose, is received pronunciation a lot. However, there are people who attend Oxford University who have all sorts of accents. About 40% of people at the university are postgraduates. Very often they're from other countries. The two major nationalities are American and German. Amongst the undergraduates, they're from all over the UK and abroad. So many people have regional accents. And if you have a working class and or regional accent, don't feel that you'll be the odd one out, that you'll be mistreated. That's not really what people mean by Oxford English. There's the Oxford English Dictionary, obviously, published by Oxford University Press, and that's why many people have thought this is like the Bible of the English language. This is how to say it properly. There isn't really a correct accent. I mean, there are correct spellings and there are correct significations of words and so forth. The United States has got Webster's Dictionary, which is probably the US government, I believe. Anyway, back to Oxford. So most people who attend it are speaking RP. They often come from the southern half of England, and they're often middle class, indeed upper middle class. Almost half of them have been to public school. They're Oxonians, as in they attend Oxford University, not Oxfordians, people who happen to live in the city. A few people fall into both categories. So Oxford University, in a sense, is a font of the English language, not a written font, I mean as in like a wellspring of it. King Alfred came from very close to there, 10 miles south. Wantage was his birthplace, and he was one of the first people to say that people should write in English, or Anglo-Saxon as it was in those days. Old English was scarcely ever written in the 9th century AD when he became king. If things were written, it was almost always in Latin. We said, no, we'll start a bit of writing in English, but English didn't really take over as the major written academic language till the 18th century. The government switched over in the 1650s to English rather than Latin. Oxford University has produced so many celebrated writers, from Shelley to C.S. Lewis to Andrew Motion, a list as long as your arm. I'm not going to waste the whole video naming them. So another point is Oxford University is the oldest university in the Anglosphere, not quite the oldest in Europe, third apparently, or indeed the oldest in the world that's still extant. There were some universities in ancient India, for instance, which then closed down. So I recall my first week at Oxford University turning up to a rugger practice. I was wearing an Irish rugger jersey, and another undergraduate was running the practice, and this boy saw me and said, "You're remarkably well spoken for an Irishman." So I don't think it was a backhanded compliment, but I don't speak as one might expect, given that I'm from Hibernia. So here are some words which are specific to Oxford University. Here's the jargon. Battles, is an EL, not an LE, towards the end. That's a bill one has to pay at the end of every term for meals you've had. Incidentally, Oxford University's got a federal structure. There's a university, and within it there are 39 colleges, so everybody belongs to a college. It's too cumbersome to explain in this brief video. Fresher, that is a person in his or her first term. That begins in October. We don't say freshman. Freshers week, that week before term really begins with the freshers being oriented, and there are lots of drunken raucous parties. Don, anybody who teaches in the university, he or she is a don. It's a slang word, really. There's no official definition. So don, it's not a mafia don or something like that. Townie, that's a pejorative term for anybody who lives in the city but is not attending or has never attended the university. So it's almost opprobrious. Mods, short for moderations, exams people usually take at the end of their first year, to see that they're progressing well in their course. That doesn't determine one's final class or degree. First class degree is the best, then there's 2-1, 2-2, third, then pass, which is very, very rare. That's just above fail. Anything above a pass is an honours degree. But quadrangle, or quad, we say for short, Many colleges have lots of squares with a green in the middle, and they divide into quads, each college. Tutorial, so that's when a few undergraduates will meet with a don and he or she will have them read their essay aloud, discuss things, transfer some information, but generally supervise their academic progress. Tutorial is often called tut for a short, and the person in charge of you is your tutor. See them at least once a week. Collections. Now these can be informal exams at the beginning of a term, just to see you're on target to do well in finals. Or it can be a meeting with the head of house. That's the man or woman who's the person in charge of your college. And a brief report will be read out about you and it'll be discussed. That only happened twice when I was an undergraduate. Hall. Every college will have a hall, and that's like the dining room. You don't have to eat there. So you'll be able to seat a few hundred people. Centuries ago, when many of these colleges were built, everybody had to eat there 3 times a day, so it could accommodate everybody. But the colleges have outgrown the capacity of the hall in most cases. The colleges are known by various nicknames. Christchurch is known as the house. Ides Christi, it is in Latin, the house of Christ. These colleges usually have names as long as your arm as their official name. So mine was the Master and Fellows of the College of the Great Hall of the University in the University of Oxford. That was way too long, so known as University College, and they could use that officially, or just UNIV for short. Other things, you could be sent down, that's expelled from the university. You could be rusticated, which is sent away temporarily as a punishment. If it's felt that you're struggling academically, they could send you penals, an exam, to see that you really are on target, or even pre-penals, which is one before that. There are proctors. These are people who are in charge of discipline in the university. Every college has a senior dean. He or she, again, is in charge of discipline within the college. The dean, when I was there, said it was like being head of the secret police. There's another thing, viva voce. Occasionally undergraduates have this as part of finals, if they're on the borderline of a degree class. More common for postgraduates, and it's literally living voice in Latin, viva voce, where the person is interviewed, quizzed about their thesis. Definitely takes place if someone has written a doctorate. Incidentally, that's a DPhil at Oxford. Oxford is almost unique in having DPhil rather than PhD. Doctor philosophy, not philosophy doctor. Seems to be the right way around. Another thing is MA can be an undergraduate degree. You'd get that 7 years after you matriculate. Matriculation is the ceremony where the person joins and sort of sworn into the university. Subfusc, that's another Oxford term, and that's a dark suit with a white shirt. Women can wear skirts or trousers, men have to wear trousers. Gender discrimination. These white bow ties the boys wear, the girls wear these little black tie things. I say boys and girls, they could be middle-aged, they could be in their 70s even, doing this. And gowns they have to wear. A commoner is anyone who's not got a scholarship, wears a gown just down to the buttocks. Someone who's got a scholarship wears one which goes down almost to the ankles. So different gowns depending on your academic achievement. If you get a degree, you'll get a certain gown in accordance with the degree you've got, different colour to indicate what you have. The red and blue one for a DPhil is the most gorgeous one. How about subjects? Well, there's classics, but that means Latin and ancient Greek. But classics is often called literae humaniores, the Latin words, a more human alphabet. And the classicists are studying it, think they're the cleverest of all, though it's the easiest to get in for, because not so many people apply. They're not just studying ancient Rome and ancient Greece, they'd be studying the history or philosophy of these countries, but philosophy even written in the Middle Ages, when it was still composed in Latin, those philosophical articles. Various streets, there's the High Street known as the High, and there's Broad Street known as the Broad. In Ireland and Great Britain, the main shopping street of most cities is called the High Street. There's a college called Worcester, spelt W-O-R-C-E-S-T-E-R, and people who attend it are Worcestersians. Those who go to St Edmund's Hall are known as Aularians, because aula is hall in Latin, and so it goes on. Oriel College, people who go there are Oriolenses. There's Magdalen College, spelt Magdalene, in honour of that woman, the Blessed Virgin Mary's friend, not the Blessed Virgin herself. Some people think that Mary Magdalene was Jesus' wife. There's Brasenose College, known as the Nose. I shall tell you the droll story about how it got that name sometime. But the people in the city of Oxford, townies, not wanting to be pejorative, they used to speak in a West Country accent, particularly the older generation, when I first went there in the 90s. But now they tend to speak more Cockney, as in more like working class Londoners. So that's that. The Oxford Dons are not too snooty. When Oxford Don said cheers to me once to mean thanks, I was surprised he was using such a demotic expression. Some of the undergraduates use a few deliberate archaisms, but I'll speak about those in another video.